Testing, testing. Okay, welcome to the Life Lessons podcast. And it's morning for me. I'm driving to work. And normally I would start my day with a podcast. I'd be listening to something positive, maybe something motivational, maybe something educational, maybe something spiritual. But what do you start your day with? Hopefully something positive as well, some like this podcast. There's an old motivational speaker named Zig Ziglar, and he used to talk about watching what you put into your mind. So he would talk about kind of like your brain is like a computer, garbage in, garbage out. So what are you putting in your mind? And we kind of have to watch out for the effects of that. I mean, it's more than we realize. There's a really cool book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It talks about the brain and how the brain works. And there's one experiment where it's pretty icy here. There's one experiment where they have these students rearrange pieces of paper with words on them to make sentences. And then they have to take the paper down to the end of the hall and give them their results. And the students thought that the experiment was about rearranging the words. But what was actually happening was they were timing how long it took the students to walk down the hallway, depending on which words were on the paper. And the words that had things like Florida, beach, and oranges that made them think of old people in retirement, essentially. There was associations with that. Those students walked slower to work. I mean, those students walked slower down the hall and than the students that were given other words. So keep in mind what you put into your mind each day. I did a little experiment back in the day, when I was 18, when I was studying Buddhism, and I decided to increase my code of conduct, let's say. And within Buddhism, there's something called the Eightfold Path and the Middle Path. And part of it is right speech, right action, right thought, right concentration, right mindfulness. I can't remember all of them. But it's the Eightfold Path. And part of right speech, which they're calling right, which also put me down a very interesting line of questioning of what is right versus what is wrong. Part of right speech was to not swear, not slander anyone, not gossip, not lie. The one I found more challenging than any of them was to not swear. But I did that for, a month or two. And I noticed a huge difference in my state. Definitely less anger. And that was the good side, I guess, of that. The downside of it was I was much more sensitive when someone else would swear. It kind of almost made me cringe. So part of that, because of that, I actually started swearing again. But now, these days, I rarely try. I rarely swear. I mean, I don't mind swears. But the reason that I consciously try to avoid swearing is because I want to think of a better definition or a better term than just the swear. I want to define my thought more clearly than a swear can provide. A swear is very generalized. I'm sure you may have seen this skit where somebody uses the word fuck for literally every other word as a replacement. So it's kind of funny. So anyways, when you feel like swearing, or when you feel like calling someone a name or labeling them, which essentially doesn't serve you very well, it just jacks up your emotions, which we're trying to gain control of, right? So say someone cuts you off or in traffic or something, and you're about to swear and call him a name. Instead, as you're feeling that anger boil up, you could say something like, I didn't like what he did just now. That was very dangerous. Right? So you are clearly defining the action or the inaction that the person just did. Right? And you're taking out some of the judgment. And you're also defining, you're getting more clear on exactly what happened. So, and you're also allowing yourself the space to come up with a solution rather than just blaming the other person. You can take some responsibility and some control over your life by, now that you've defined the action, start thinking about what you could have done. I could have given him more space, or I could have maintained a constant speed, or I could have seen him coming from my rear view. I could have been paying more attention. So, something to think about when it comes to swears and what you put into your mind. There's another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to what we put in. There's also what we put out. We have inputs like books and podcasts and television and listening to other people, which is essentially is following in a way. And we have outputs. So our outputs could be writing, speaking, podcasting, creating YouTubes, drawing, teaching, any kind of action that is outputting. I mean, going to work, the things we do at work are output. And generally what I find is, as soon as work is over, any form of output stops. And it's back to input. Because input is generally, well, I guess we'll choose a side, we'll get imbalanced. And we'll start just scrolling on Facebook or whatever, and Instagram or whatever, and just allowing input. So practice balancing your inputs with your outputs. Whichever one you find you're doing less, start doing more of that one. And I'm going to talk a lot about balance on this podcast. Balance is one of the universal principles. Nature is balanced. Our reality is balanced. And the more we are in harmony with that balance, the better things are going to work out for us, the more fulfilling our lives are going to be. And the more poise, as in balance, we're going to feel. So practice balancing your input and your output. It could just be a diary or a journal entry. It could be practicing recording yourself on camera, recording your whatever kind of output you want to do. Could be blogging, could be anything. Drawing, writing a book. Practice your outputs. Okay, so that's input and output. What you put into your mind. And speaking of taking action, doing your outputs are part of taking action. I want you guys to every day take some small action that is slightly out of your comfort zone, and slightly out of your daily routine. So it's an anomaly. Some action that's an anomaly, something you wouldn't normally do. And we're going to call that an anomalous action. Okay, this is from a really cool book called Reality Transurfing. So within our day, we have these habitual, almost scripts that we do. And we get up, we do our thing, we go to work, or we do our whatever, and every day can kind of turn out the same. So every day I want you to break the script and just do something you wouldn't normally do that day. Speak to someone you wouldn't normally speak to, or say something you wouldn't normally say. And all you're doing is you're just slowly pushing the boundary of who you are and what you're capable of. And you're just slowly expanding yourself. So give that a go. It's actually a lot of fun.
Thanks, guys, for listening to the Life Lessons podcast. In the next episode, number 4, I'm going to be talking about grief. I'm going to be talking about death, and I'm going to be talking about the nature of infinity. So join me there, Life Lessons podcast number 4. Talk to you later.